Hi everybody, welcome to Discussing Tabletop. You know, it's continues to be a year, but we're doing okay. It's February 18th? Yes. Getting towards the end of February, slowly getting through it, you know. Got a few things to talk about this week. Why don't we dive into those? Because, you know, I will apologize about yesterday. I didn't end up streaming and I didn't say anything. It was a little less of just I just wanted to take time to myself for just be disconnected a little bit from the internet. Didn't stop me from watching a few videos, but still. So, Hasbro / Wizards. Well, we got a couple of things to talk about. Do you want the shutdown or the Hasbro's digging their own grave first?
Which one's less bad?
Probably the shutdown.
Yeah, it's fine.
The LATAM headquarters of Wizards of the Coast is shut down. Here is a Reddit thread that I found, which links to the tweet about it from the community manager that was of Wizards of the Coast, Brazil. So, that's where the link came from, the community manager stuff, and there's a discussion about it there. But anyway, it's interesting just to see that, is this something, is something going on? Is it a cutback from the various things that have been occurring in the Wizards world, WotC world? Don't know. It's... I, from seeing, have always gotten the opinion that Latin America is one of those markets that isn't treated great by Wizards, even though there is a...
It's possible they just view that they weren't making enough money in that market and are pulling out of it for the most part.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's a common thing in the business world, sadly.
Yeah. And it's not like there probably isn't plenty of fans and money to be made there, but it's maybe not the money they want. Which is kind of... there's a lot of questions. We haven't gotten answers about it. And there wasn't a lot of fanfare about this. And that's the thing is, though, it's their main headquarters in South America, in Brazil, for that area of the world. What does that mean for that area in the future?
Yeah, I know I had seen a rumor... I didn't see any validity to said rumor, but that there is something going around that they might just stop printing cards in Brazilian Portuguese and Latin American Spanish because maybe they just don't sell enough there to warrant it, right?
Well, I think one of the problems is that I've heard about it is a lot of those countries have specific things for imports that the Wizards shrink wrapping has to be removed for them just to check on things. The way that they have their customs. But the thing is, could you just arrange to resync wrap it afterwards have a site? It's no one ever thought about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Customs laws are a strange thing.
Yeah. It sounds like Wizards could have maybe taken steps. Maybe they couldn't have. I don't know. Anyway, so investment is going very badly for those that are investing in Hasbro.
Of course it is. They've been on downturn for how long at this point?
Yeah, basically, this is a weird one. Bank of America got on their case, especially about how they've been using Wizards. Yeah, this is one of those things. Bank of America, it's a big bank here in the U.S. Banking is just one of those companies, or one of those groups that it's a necessity of our world, but also it's kind of a catch-22 if they're never really looked on in a positive light, I guess is the way to put it. The banks are both your friend and your enemy at the same time and eternally will be. So what they're saying basically Hasbro's was over monetizing Magic, and then had D&D basically just destroy all their goodwill. And they're basically warning people that Hasbro's perhaps stock is going to tank even more in the future.
Yeah.
I fucking think Hasbro's listening. Or are they? I don't know.
They're probably not. Like, it's... Because Bank of America is investment banking, so this makes sense that they're warning people not to, like, hey, maybe don't invest in this, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense, because obviously they're out to make money with your investments. That's just how investment banking works. But this is certainly a weird one to me, but I guess it makes sense in a way. Because it certainly is true that WotC hasn't been the best of goodwill creators in the past.
Yeah. And I think it's like one of those important things is sort of like, we talked about it during everything that was going on with Blizzards. WotC is the money maker in Hasbro right now. So,
Yeah.
you know...
Magic the Gathering was like their first... God, it hit some ridiculous number. And it was like Hasbro's first biggest selling thing. And they wanted the same... I don't... The number billion is in my head, but I don't think it's...
It might have been $1 billion property was like Magic.
Yeah, like because Magic makes a fuckload of money.
Well, again, I think it's there is a level of like monetization of products they could put out, but they will reach a point in time which is too much, and I feel like they've already gone past that. You know.
Hey, you can't make all of the money. Eventually, your profits are going to start going down. That's just there's not all of the money doesn't exist in the world.
According to capitalism, it does, which is the worst part of capitalism.
You're either going to end up pricing out most of your market or oversaturating your stuff, which we've seen in the past with their overprinting. They have oversaturated in the past and collapsed their own games before. Which is currently happening with Magic the Gathering, by the way. That's why they cut back on printing.
Hey, Chronicles. Chronicles was a great idea, but they printed so much of it. It's still a set that has reprints from a lot of the older sets that is dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And it has some things in there that were pretty rare. But it's pretty dirt cheap in comparison for, like, a set that has, it's a reprint set for the first 4 expansions. You know? But they printed so much of it at the time. You know, they just were like, everybody will want all the things. And they're like, this was a terrible idea. We're never doing it again. It's like, no, you fucked up the way you did things. Realize this, please. Whatever.
It's a very one-minded world.
Yeah, unfortunately.
How it is. I have a couple of friends who work with business degrees and shit. I would never want to do it.
You know, just dealing with it even indirectly always seems like a crazy thing. The first playtest for Black Flag is out. I didn't have a chance to look over it too much.
Hot take. This continues the really cool theme of people releasing playtests that aren't a playtest. There's not enough in here to playtest. What is in here is basically race stuff for characterization rules, more or less. And some feats. Well, they're called traits, but they're feats basically, and then there's some backgrounds. I think it's a good base. I think there's some stuff that's way too strong in this, and people can choose to disagree with me, but I will pull up Dwarf real fast, because the one I had, I think it was Dwarf. Was it Dwarf? Yes. So, the reason I think Dwarf, and this is a very niche, too strong, they get basically they can choose a tool, Glassblower or Smith tools, to have proficiency in, and then they also get expertise in that tool. Well, basically expertise. Your proficiency bonuses. I should preface this. Black Flag is heavily based on 5th edition. It's meant to be compatible, I believe. That's what they're going for. So a lot of the same terms will exist here, most likely. But basically, they just made a dwarf, but you get expertise, which is a class feature, which I don't think a race should get. I think, even though it's a very niche expertise, I think it's a little too much to give basically a class feature to it. is a race or species.
Yeah, that I can see that as
Just me.
making sense. No, that's
Otherwise, everything's like fine for the most part. Some of the traits are a little strong, but again, this is kind of like the first draft, so
well, it's
it has the problem that is persistent in most systems where, at least what they're presenting so far is martial stuff kind of sucks. Spellcasting is a little too strong.
Okay.
It has that issue still, which a lot of systems have. Even Pathfinder has it.
Yeah. No,
Any D20 system's gonna have that problem, especially if it's spawned from a form of D&D.
D&D never gets away from these issues.
But yeah, this thing is just the character creation rules. You don't have classes yet. But theoretically, you could just use this with 5th edition because it's meant to be compatible. Which is an interesting choice. I understand Cobalt Press does a lot of compatible things. Personally, it's not what I was looking for, but it is nice to have the option there for 5th edition people still, I guess.
It's something. So Black Flag development, it's something to keep an eye out on, see if it's what you want from a new system, if it's different enough or, changed enough for your taste. I don't know.
It's a good start. And then they didn't say they're going to do the second packet, but I think the second packet will have class stuff, so you can actually do a playtest.
That'd be good. Like an actual playtest. I didn't realize this was limited, until you said that. I looked at it like, oh yeah, they don't really have anything here.
I don't like this recent trend of, here's a playtest. There's nothing to playtest in it, because there's not enough there. You can't call it a playtest. You can't playtest it.
This is very true.
It's a preview. Or a UA. This is a preview. You can't really playtest this, but this is what it's going to look like mostly. Right?
Yeah. So keep an eye on that if you're interested in Black Flag. And then there was a lot actually to talk about this week. Strangely enough, it was actually a really quiet week. So I only got one more main topic, and that is a new Liminal book. I think we've talked about Liminal, the RPG, before.
I have talked about Liminal. We've glossed over it.
Yeah, we've glossed over it. It's a new scenario book for the Modiphius is publishing. Honestly, it's 14 adventures for the Liminal game. There are, I guess, 9 of them have been put in other locations or other editions or anything from it, but 5 are completely new, with new artwork for all of them. It is made for Liminal, but they do say, if you're playing a modern supernatural game in Britain that features vampires, fae, ghosts, werewolves, rogue magicians, or more, you could use them. This means it's technically compatible with World of Darkness.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, because all those things exist in there in some form or another. They do have notes for combining them. You can do them all on your own. Let's see here. And that's kind of about it for it. It's adventures.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice, because I'm a big fan of these, because these teach you how a system is meant to be run. That is why I will always like starter sets and adventure books, because they do teach you how to run the system.
Anything that has a sample adventure or a short adventure or something like that just gives you an idea of how things play out and how things are formatted are really good.
Yeah.
After that, sure, you can adapt it however you need for your game, but getting that base concept of this is how it works is pretty important sometimes, because honestly, some of those more complex systems, it really needs it.
Yeah.
Cough,
I know. For me, So I'm currently learning Pathfinder 2nd Edition as a note. I'm slowly making my way through the gargantuan core rulebook when I have time. Spoilers, I've had a lot of time lately.
Spoilers, that book is...
The book's really fucking big.
And it's like
and really badly laid out.
I was saying this because I was doing a couple of, if you missed them, streams where I was talking about stuff from Pathfinder 2nd Edition this week. Hey, my comment still stands of... one of the main problems is they will reference something earlier and then later on reference it and not tell you that they referenced it, and you feel like, what the fuck is this again?
It's the same problem when we have to reference a rule from like book 1 or 2 of Skulls and Shackle, because I have those 2 books and Cell does. So me and Cell just look through the PDFs trying to find, where are the rules on pirating? Surely they'd be in book 2 where you do the pirating. No, they're at the start of book 1 where you don't do any pirating.
It's like, by the way, at the end of book 1, we're just going to put this pirating session, and you're like, why is it in book 1? You don't do it here.
Why isn't it in the book where you actually do the pirating stuff?
It's like, God. What?
The infamy rules are in book 2. Why aren't the pirate rules in book 2? I don't want to think where the ship combat rules are, in what fucking book they exist.
2?
I don't even want to know what the mass ship combat even rules look like.
They're in the current one at 5, but they're like...
Oh, at least that's in the right place, I guess.
Yeah, and it's... But the thing is, it's like, it's not a lot. It's just there at the end, and it's like, you have to go, like, find it, and... but it's... for those books, at least, you can understand, you know, like, they put a bunch of appendices with all this stuff at the end, at least. So, I mean, that's nice and more organized than the Player's Handbook.
The Player's Handbook does have some bad organization. And to be fair, the 5th edition DMG also is very terribly organized. Also, the 5th edition DMG really doesn't tell you how to DM a game.
It's just information that would be helpful to know as a DM.
It doesn't really tell you any of the rules. You have to kind of read the Player's Handbook to know that.
Yeah. It's almost if it's a bad DMG. I don't know.
It's almost like it should just be one book.
Yeah.
Weird. No, but buy 2 books for $60.
Books like these that give adventures examples. We were on that, I think. Right? But I'll say something. Yeah, like, this is a very good book to have, especially if you want to get into Liminal. And like, if you want to start basically GMing any kind of system, running any kind of system, it might not be a bad idea to at least take a look at some sample adventures, because it just gives you an eye. Like, I will tell you, one of the things that helped me a little bit, I've never actually used it much since I learned it, is taking a look at how a Shadowrun adventure was formatted. It was 4th edition Shadowrun, which is basically 5th and 4th are basically the same. I've argued that, you know, but still, they give you enough information to know, like, the basics, and it's sort of like, have an idea of what something is. You don't have to detail everything. Be ready to detail things if your players do something stupid, but just having an idea of what it should be is enough sometimes, you know? Which is like one of those things that's a complex sci fantasy world in the future where you're basically breaking and entering into, like, you know, mega corporations a lot of times, means there's issues that come up a lot, and kind of just having an idea on how to deal with those issues is really good. And they don't tell you that anywhere. So looking at adventure was very good in that one. So, and again, this one, you can check out Liminal. It can be adapted. If not, you can just use it. It's 14 adventures. There you go. I don't know if there's anything else to say about this topic. That was a good one. I got passionate about it. I like passion. I guess we can just move on to some deeper discussion.
Yeah, we can move on to that thing.
Yeah. Do I have that correctly there? No, I've got to copy paste it. So, if you want to look at it, we have a topic that we haven't talked about. I think we've talked about power gaming before. I believe? Maybe. I don't know if we've had like a direct power gaming conversation.
I don't know if we ever had. We've alluded to it in the past.
What I wanted to talk about. Well, then maybe I'll put that.
We could put that to the list.
I'll put just power gaming in the list. This was indirect power gaming or power in your group. This is something that, like, I don't play. Like, this can happen in two ways. I give something that I think is very innocuous or not very powerful to my players, and it proves, in combination with whatever they have, to be very powerful. Or, which I have seen before, someone makes a character, and you start playing that character, and you're all of a sudden it's like, oh, I did something gross.
I've accidentally done that before.
And that's one of those things is like, dealing with those two situations can be hard, honestly. They're very similar situations. The power dynamic of your team has gone out of whack, whether or not it's one player or the team as a whole. And you have to figure out a new way to deal with it. Like, I feel like when it's you on the DM or GM that you've made a mistake, that's like one of those weird ones of like, how do I take something back for my players?
And the easiest way to do that is just to have a conversation with them. It's like, hey, like if I give someone an item, it's a little too strong. Like, hey, this item's a little bit too strong when I made it. We're going to scale it back a little bit, but you're going to get to keep the item, or would you let me take this and give you this item instead, right?
Yeah. Like, those can certainly be very easy to, like, depending on the situation, that's the easiest conversation. And there could be, like, if it's an item for the story, you could be like, I just got to edit it or something, or like, you know, you just watch the situation and kind of figure out things. You want to be honest with your players, but it's also like, you know that your players don't want to abuse power normally.
Yeah.
These are situations where your players aren't trying to do that. Sometimes that's the power game conversation, is someone getting into a situation where they want to kind of abuse the power. Because you get that too.
I luckily have never encountered that in one of my players yet. But because I mostly run 5th edition and 2D20, it's very hard to power game those two systems. You can do it, but it takes effort.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, like, there's different degrees of power gaming. Like, when we have the conversation, I will tell you, a lot of the crazy warlock builds are technically low-level power gaming.
Yeah. Like Paladin Warlock and Sorcerer Warlock are pretty strong, but they fall off at later levels, right? So you're getting an initial burst of power, and you'll be weaker later.
Yeah.
Which I think that's fine, because you're giving up, like, if you're a Paladin and you're giving up, like, 2 to 3 Paladin levels, you're not going to be a great Paladin by the end of the game.
And that's the thing is, people make plans depend on what they knowledge for their game they're in too.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, you doing something and making a mistake as the running the game, that's going to happen. And if you affect your players, again, like I said, the good example of giving an item, but sometimes you can do things like, depending on the system, give abilities, give access to stuff. You could have, like, allowed something that is totally innocuous, but as you're playing through the game, you know, it proves more powerful overall to the game. And, like, mechanically, it's not something that's powerful, you know. It's just, it unhinges the way the story works sometimes. And that can happen, too. That's kind of like an in-between. Because, like, you know, it's both kind of on the player, but also on you. Because the player has an idea of how the game's going to run. They don't know everything. So they could have chosen, you know, special ability A.
Yeah.
Because it was neat. But all of a sudden, special ability A murders everything you planned for. And, like, it can... sometimes you can change your plans. Other times it becomes harder to, depending on the situation. If I'm running a campaign where you're fighting against an army of the undead and you've got some kind of ability that just happens to mess around with undead in a way that you weren't expecting, shit, I can't get rid of the undead. What do I do? You know?
Yeah.
You got to be ready for stuff to happen.
And Lightning brings up is some people plan out their builds. Especially for Pathfinder, a lot of people do for Pathfinder, but in 5th edition, there's like no point in really doing a build plan.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like it doesn't matter that much in 5th edition.
Yeah.
I mean, for Skulls and Shackles, I built Misty to level 15, and then at like level 8, you gave me Musket. I'm like, well, throwing this out and doing Musket Master now.
And that's the thing, that like you can get into a situation where you can change things dramatically in the way that you want to either plan or you've got plans. Like, I honestly, that's something that I did too, is like when I knew I was going to get to around a certain level, I would look at like because especially in something like Pathfinder First Edition, feat paths are important.
Yes, you have to plan your feat paths. You get dead end. Oh.
Yeah, so you kind of have to take a look at it, and even if you don't pick everything, you have to get a general idea of what you want to take. There are other systems where it's not bad to kind of plan things out a little bit. Like, I'll tell you, like, if I'm playing World of Darkness, if I start with certain abilities, I will also know where I want to build my character when I build my character. Yeah. I might add something in as the game plays, but I have an idea of where I'm building my character to, where I'm going to spend my experience. If an opportunity to change that comes up, awesome. If it doesn't, well, so like, and I think that the third one, which I have encountered a couple of times, is you play something and then all of a sudden it is so much more insane than you thought it was, and you know, it's just something you thought was cool. And then you play you play the first session, and it was ridiculous. I think the good example of a first session, oh my god, this is gross, was 3.5. Good friend of the channel, Blaze. We were playing, I think it was 5th level characters, okay? There was a savage species. He wanted to be an anthropomorphic, I think it was cheetah. No, he wanted to be anthropomorphic tiger. At which there are rules for it. It was like 4 levels or something to play one. Okay, you're playing an anthropomorphic, like a tiger person. Takes a level of the class Scout. If you know 5e Scout, you know what special ability is. Move and you do extra damage. It was the same for 3.5. Tigers got Pounce. Anthropomorphic ones did. So, first session, pounce on an enemy. I just did fireball damage. Did that a bunch. Could just do that. The DM had to take a stance to be like, okay, this is a little much, because as soon as you start gaining levels, the damage is going to get up way too quick. So, this is one of those ones where, like, it's like, you had a conversation with the person, and this is what you can do. You can have a conversation, sort of like, look, can you change, like, this one where it was like, this is a little too much. Unfortunately, like, it's not, this is like not just a simple class ability, is Scouts do extra damage when you move. Combining that with something like Spring Attack, well, fuck, you know, you're just running up and pounding or something like some charge abilities. Screwed. Can you change your class? Blaze agreed. Blaze took a different class. Now that got crazy in other ways later on.
As it usually does.
But that the craziness was then, rather than right away, it scaled, at least, you know, which, you know, it was more fun that way anyway, because Blaze took in a class that gave skill bonuses, which synergized with my class, which gave skill bonuses. So we were Team Skill Whore. So either we could roll everything, or give allies massive bonuses to skill checks. We were the team that did that. And that was really fun. But we scaled up on that, you know. It's like, you want to have in a game that, like, you know, start at the average power that you're supposed to and then scale up, rather than be like, I can take everything that exists right away from the start of it, you know. And certainly, I've encountered builds that people have done that are just like... It can be hard to deal with sometimes. Stuff like that is hard to deal with, and sometimes you can talk to a player and have them change it, you know, and it's like... It's sometimes hard, too, because, like, when you build a character, you build it with a fundamental idea in mind, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, if... an example, like, you know, when I built a character like Badger, we've talked about a bunch of times on this, that character is very fighter-based.
Yeah, he's a fighter, he was Cavalier.
I could have been, you know, like a ranger or something, so it's an easy adaptation if I had stumbled upon something that was really stupid with a fighter. 5th edition, fortunately, doesn't really have a lot of that.
You didn't really stumble upon something stupid, but you did make me appreciate how tanky Cavalier is.
Cavalier's really tanky.
Subclass I've never looked at, because I'm like, well, you need like a horse for that or something. That's not, you can't take a horse into a dungeon. Turns out you don't need the horse at all.
No, you don't. They got to that point. It's like well, it helps that you have a horse, but you don't need
like one
one.
class feature related to a horse. That's it. It's that you can climb the horse faster.
It is very silly that like I just found that entire subclass, you know, for fighters silly, but it was like I still took a lot of levels to get to that point where I could just tank everything, you know. It wasn't right away I destroy everything. And, you know, I have encountered power gaming that's very extreme. I will say that. I have encountered... And so that'll be part of another conversation. But I've encountered power gaming that it's unfortunate that the difference between the power gaming and the not power gaming ends up being how you actually play, if you play the class like you're supposed to or not.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I just the one example I can think of, I encountered someone who made a samurai character from like 3rd edition, played it really badly, and it was ridiculously powerful. When the person couldn't play, we put it as an NPC, and when we played it like an actual NPC, as an actual samurai, it was fine. Because it played like a samurai. It's like, you know, a lawful character. When they were a lawful character, sure, I had all this power, but you use it wisely, you know, and had a wisdom score.
Samurai is fighter monk, yes.
This was like the 3.0 samurai, though. I think he also took like the EI Jitsu Master, which like adds your like instant damage or something stupid. It's an actual build, but like you know, it's a pretty gross build. It's not like super power gaming. He just took it in such a way that it was like pretty ridiculous, I will tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever, not that I can recall at least, done like on purpose ever power again, because I don't give a shit enough care, right? Like, I mean, Misty's a little strong, but that's mostly because I accidentally found out Gunslinger and Inquisitor is apparently a good combination.
Yeah.
I'd never figured that one would work together at all, but hey, apparently it does. It's not doing like the most damage like a big hammerman, but I think I do the most consistent damage.
Yes. That
Jekyll misses a lot because he's hitting with a hammer.
I mean, power attacks all the time.
And power attacks takes a bit off, and it's not touch. And we're at the level where things have like pretty good AC usually. Yep.
Yeah. I can say I have done some things that were very powerful, but like honestly, like I look at it and I think about some of my classes I could almost say were power games. I'm like, yeah, but I did it stupidly. Like I have to say, like I had like my like power game character was a stupid drow fighter rogue wizard, and it was pretty terrible in the end. You know, we were 5th level for that game, and start out with, and so I made this character, and it was just weird. It just was weird. It was weird more than like attempting to abuse things. I think the DM got pissed off because I had like a spell that I could like throw a greatsword out and like hit enemies, and it would come back to me then. Like you could do a line attack with a sword you had, and it's made to be like you throw a dagger or a longsword. I was fine. I could greatsword, and apparently according to the rules, depending on the situation, I could also sneak attack while doing that, which was really stupid. But that was my combo, and it was kind of mean, but as soon as I got into melee, you couldn't really use it, and I had spell slots, so as soon as you run out of spell slots, you can't really use it. So, I mean, like...
That's just because Rogue is, like, good, despite what some people say, I think.
Yeah, Scout Rogue's pretty...
Rogue's just, like, one of the best classes in 5th edition.
I think it's the thing is, Rogue is just, like, a standard, like, decent all around.
It's standard, you do a big hit.
Yeah. I think it's just... There's nothing really exciting about Rogue.
No, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing, like, Arcane Trickster.
Yeah. It's the thing is, like, between characters in a group, you are still going to have a variety of power at every level. Like, even, like, if you just take 1st level, there's going to be a variety of how people are powerful. And even, like, certain choices they make will choose how they scale power-wise. But normally there's, like, a normal scale we all recognize and work within. And it's just when things go way outside that scale you have to worry about. You cool with a big hammer is going to do a lot of damage. You know that it's a two-handed fighter who, probably has power attack at 1st level. Are they going to hit a lot? Well, no. Depends. If you're throwing zombies at them, probably not. Zombies have shit AC in Pathfinder 1.8.
Yeah.
Skeletons have a lot of AC. Probably not going to hit them too much. But they're there and can hit them.
Yeah. And... I mean, Yakul's build mostly relies on being buffed by other people anyways.
Yeah.
So he's a pretty typical fighter. Fighter falls off pretty quickly unless there's a caster behind them buffing them.
Especially more melee fighters, it requires so much... a good feat tree, I think, to make it really worth it. For any of the melee ones.
Yeah.
Maybe sword and board's a little different, but then you're hitting defensive builds.
Yeah, I think a slash and grace fighter could be pretty good.
Yeah,
because you're adding your dex to damage instead of your strength.
Yeah, it's just you got to realize everybody's got like a build depending on your system.
Everyone has a niche in your party. Everyone has a build. Some builds are a little strong, and some builds are kind of shit.
And it doesn't even matter the system for that, too. There's plenty of systems where you have builds and stuff, and way that you're doing stuff.
If I ever see someone play a Ranger Rogue in 5th edition, I'm going to get salty. That's, like, the most broken multi-class.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing is to, like, you've got to make sure to look over your character. That's not always an easy thing to do. It's, like, try to at least on, like, level up, know what people did.
Yeah.
Take a look when they're making their characters and try to, like, look at what they're doing. And also think about the campaign you're running, the information you've given them versus where you're going to end up. Certainly, like, when I did Carrying Crown, I announced it was going to be an undead campaign. If someone was playing a paladin or, like, a cleric that's really good at fighting undead or a ranger with undead as a favorite enemy, I would expect that. Because I told them what it's going to be.
Carrying Crown lives rent free in my head at this point. Because I do think about that game quite a bit. And I do recall, I was originally going to make a cleric or a paladin. But Lightning made an oracle, so I was like, well, I don't need to make a cleric anymore, so I'll do a ranger. And then it turns out, well, I should have just made the fucking cleric.
That was honestly also me forgetting how different oracles work.
Should just made a cleric, Oracle's not great.
Oracle, if you say oracle and you're like, oh, what's that? Well, it's like kind of like a cleric but a sorcerer. That's not true. Oracles are really different.
Yeah.
They are
Ling should have been a sorcerer.
Yeah. The build Ling wanted was more of a sorcerer build.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something that maybe we can talk about too at some point in time, is the opposite of power gaming, where is power deficiency in characters.
Like a really bad build by accident. Hey, we've all done it.
Yeah. We talk about bad builds. We might have. I don't think we did.
I don't believe you ever talk about bad builds, because it's not something that ever comes up. Also, yeah, in quotations, undead game. Half the campaign has no undead in it.
I think the idea for that one was, it was sort of like, there's going to be undead in every adventure, but there's also other stuff too. It's that weird thing of like, it's sort of really hard because I think Pathfinder Adventure Paths especially like to have variety in monsters.
Yeah, which is fine, but maybe have reasons for why they exist.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Put a fucking mummy in a room with a mimic.
That one, at least, it was sort of like the guy collected both of them and they were originally in like cases and trapped in there, and then the evil cultists let them out because the evil cultists are dicks. But even then, it's sort of like, well, why did he collect them?
Yeah, there's no mummies anywhere near this country. He would have had to go really fucking far to find one.
The thing's sarcophagus was actually like a valuable artifact you could have sold. It was like 500 gold pieces. It was heavy as it wasn't quite adamantine door, but it was another one of those ones that's just like heavy.
Yeah, how am I carrying this fucking thing out of this building game?
Especially
you just a billion miles away.
You just crossed rickety bridge to get here.
How the fuck am I getting this thing out of here?
God.
Also, the dude's still alive.
He is still alive. Oh. That's just... Oh, God. Like, you know, some of these adventures just so... written in such a way.
The earlier the adventure, the worse it usually is.
I think Skulls and Shackles is earlier than Carrying Crown. It's just like...
Skulls and Shackles has a lot of issues, to be fair.
It does, that, like... it's got different issues, I think, is the thing. It
has pacing problems.
Yes!
And also, like, doesn't do a good job at making Harrigan a villain.
That's something I also agree with.
He, like, shows up 3 times, and that's it.
Yeah, like, I think that's the thing that Skulls and Shackles has an issue, is there isn't an actual villain in the entire thing.
No, there's no real... I mean, the real villain is Chelix, but, like, that doesn't count, because that's not a person.
Yeah, it's like another nation that has a powerful navy that, honestly... has been preyed upon by pirates and then takes actual effort to conquer the place, probably because pirates keep fucking with them.
Yeah, I mean, their navy's been sunk twice by pirates, so...
So it's sort of like, it's as much as they are a lawful evil country, you also understand why they're probably coming after the Shackles. You know, it's not like we're doing it for no reason, it's...
They're actually a problem.
Yeah. The Shackles has a problem maintaining control of their people, and the Pirate Council does not give a flying fuck about that. Yeah. I think, there's the thing is, people don't really play 1st or 2nd edition because, like, yes, character death. Because people put an effort into characters, and character death is something that should be there, but it's also, like, it shouldn't be necessarily the end-all, be-all threat. It should be rare.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's not like it's not there, but it's kind of hard to get to in a normal circumstance, especially something like 5th edition. You know, that's really hard. I mean, when I was talking about like Pathfinder 2nd edition, it's harder than Pathfinder 1st edition to die, but it's not nearly as easy to live as it is in like D&D 5e. It's really hard to kill someone in 5e.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the other thing is like understand that's a comment about understand your books and what you're running. You know, too.
I mean, I can also kill people pretty easily in 5e. It's just finger of death.
Yeah.
You're dead.
Yeah. Normally you don't
But
fight that high level, though, in 5e.
normally you just don't use those spells because they're bad.
Yeah. Insta-death is just not fun, really. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like, yes, you can kill characters, you can kill them, you can have them have deadly encounters, you can set it up that it is very easy to kill people. But, like, the thing is, like, you as the DM almost have to plan out the threat of death as a real thing in an encounter. Not a normal encounter doesn't have that, as I think what I'm kind of saying. Like, a normal Pathfinder encounter, honestly, has a threat of death without me doing anything. I could roll really well, and everybody could roll really shit, and I could get someone killed at your CR. At your level of difficulty in 5e, that can kind of happen.
Unlikely to happen.
Yeah, it's very much more likely.
Resurrection's also just easier in 5th edition than it is in most systems anyways.
Yeah.
That's the big thing, you get Resurrection very early in 5th edition.
I mean, well, again, like, attacking things while they're down, I look to what a creature, whether a creature would do that or not, too. You know, whenever I think about that. That's the question I ask, is like, what are you fighting? Would attack you when it's down. So, but anyway, we've kind of finished.
This is a conversation for something else.
Yeah.
This is a different topic.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're gonna probably encounter something that unbalances your plans for the game.
I mean, a lot of stuff isn't really balanced, especially later levels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
whether or not that's
happens.
Yeah, whether or not that's something that happens when people make their characters, or like something happens in the game as you're building.
I tend to look at my players' character sheets to see what they're doing. I mean, Lightning is playing a Necromancer in my game. Lightning has been very kind and not animating 4 zombies every day, like you can do with Animate Dead, because it would just make the game literally unplayable.
And that's the thing is, like, Pathfinder, I don't disallow summoners, but I talk to people about summoning builds.
Yeah, when I made Rio as a summoning oracle, I basically said I'm only going to mass summon if the TPK is going to happen, and it only had to happen one time.
There are some things I ban, like master summoners, because
I would never take any of that.
That's just
that's too much.
That is the abomination.
Yeah.
I encountered that in a game because our DM decided to have an enemy NPC be a master summoner.
Yeah, summoning in Pathfinder is broken inherently.
Yeah.
Because more action economy on either side will unbalance and counter too much.
That's why I always suggest, if you're playing a summoner, go Eidolon focus.
Yeah.
It's much more fun that way. You don't have to deal with a bajillion character sheets. You just have to deal with 2. Like, you know, a person with an animal companion would do. Just 2. Live with it. It's enough.
Yeah. Eidolon's pretty good.
Maybe summon something for shenanigans when you need that. I'm okay with shenanigans. You know, like, hey, we have to go somewhere very quick. I can use my ability to summon things for long periods of time. Hey, wolves, come to my aid so we may run across this thing or something. Quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that. Yeah, so watch your players. Check what they're doing. Get an idea of what they want to build. Like that's the thing that sometimes I forget to do, is ask questions of people, you know, and their builds. Or you could have goddamn our what's his face? Jacob, which I have no idea what he has or what ability he has.
Well, half it's not on the character sheet, so there's no way of knowing.
He hasn't done anything that I worry about, so it's sort of like when he does stuff, I'm like, how do you do that?
He's actually, in all honesty, and this is not a slight at the player, but Jacob is a detriment more than an aid. Mostly because Jacob doesn't do anything most of the time.
Jacob, I'm pretty sure, could be really gross with whatever build he has.
Yeah, I've played an Arcanist before. They can get really... That's why Arcanist is banned in most games, because it's like the strongest tool caster.
Yeah.
It can get really gross. I played one before. Jacob's playing one very suboptimally. or Henry rather.
Henry just plays Jacob in such a way that I'm not sure.
Playing it in a very funny way, which I appreciate.
It's like, I don't know if it's the build or like just
Because the
playing
build,
it. Or it's
the
like,
transmutation build is actually really good,
mm-hmm.
but it's the way that he plays Jacob that I think makes it suboptimal, which I'm fine with.
And that's the thing too, is like, that's something that someone that has a powerful build can do.
Yeah.
And that helps play it a little bit more suboptimally, or like the samurai EI Jitsu Master. When you play it more suboptimally, aka more like an actual samurai,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as gross as if you're kill, murder, death machine. You know? I will tell you the reason why I was really glad that person left, because they had life things to do, and let the character. I've liked other characters, because that one decided that the proper way to punish a pickpocket was to cut off both their hands.
Jesus. I mean, that's historical, but good lord.
That was not part of the laws of the nation they were in. He just wanted
not okay.
And this was like, probably like a 12-year-old pickpocket they wanted to cut our hands off.
Oh.
Which one of the other characters was like, if they do stuff to cripple people in a country that has a lot of poor, and this person won't be helped, I will go around and just, like, mercy kill these people. I'm not a good character, but I can't, and, like, this is the person that was just, like, a chaotic neutral when it was just, like, I can't stand for this kind of thing. I'm just gonna mercy kill anybody that, like, this person, like, horribly mutilates in the name of their law, their honor or something.
Yeah.
I was like, look, that sounds awful too. Less awful than just crippling people and leaving them. Ugh.
Yikes.
That's sometimes you deal with that kind of thing. That's like a weird. Because the thing is that the character's done stuff up until then, and then that kind of thing comes up, and you're like, oh god. So sometimes you can't judge a character's like way they act to right away until like you get into situations like that where you're just like, fuck man. That's another issue. Weird role playing of a character.
Yep.
So anyway, only an hour today. Quick game. That's fine. Quick session. There wasn't a lot of news.
Quick podcast.
Oh, I guess we got the week of news.
We have a tabletop. We did weeks of tabletop. Yeah.
I did nothing. No, wait. Did I do Buccaneers this week? Oh, I did.
We didn't do Buccaneers.
We didn't do Buccaneers. That's right. I remember. Because we were already down 2, and you would have been sort of. Yeah, you had life stuff going on, so you like it. Not that you couldn't have been there, it's just you would have been like.
Could have been, but I wouldn't have been focused.
Yeah, you would have been exhausted. So, oh yeah, I had your game, and I did do some things I can talk about that so people can check it out. I guess, did you do anything on Sunday?
We did. We had our Sunday jamboree of chaos. It's of course the Cool Magic Earth game. Mm-hmm. We mostly did like chatting and stuff. Not to each other, of course. Naturally, we don't want to ever talk to each other. But we learned some stuff about magic. Well, not really about magic. More or less about why we're so fucked up. Our previously normal man, the normal Canadian who had no special abilities, I think he's a changeling. I think he's become that.
Okay.
He can shapeshift his features around.
Okay.
He's some kind of shape changer. And he unlocked that weird ability. He finally became a magical boy. And then the crux of the game is all of us have died in the game at some point. That's how we got our weirdness. My character died like 3 months before I started the game. And I think that's pretty typical across all the other characters. Game set in 2020. The Canadian man died in like 2015, and he's been dead for 5 years, and now he's back. But he has memories of being alive. So Lightning has decided this man's fucked forever.
Wow.
Dude's been dead for 5 years. wakes up remembering an entire life. So you know that man needs help.
And
Also,
therapy.
he's an artificer, I think, because he made a bag of holding, which is really weird.
That's interesting. Did
Then
you?
we're gonna go talk to my parents to find out which one of them is a dragon, because that's apparently why I'm a dragon. So I don't know, man. Either one of my parents is a dragon, or they got some explaining to do.
Mm-hmm. I did something Monday. I don't think you do anything on Monday.
I sleep on Monday.
Yes, I had Worms game, and in it we basically finished up our first quest line kind of thing, and kind of decided what to do next. Like, we have this key, and we were like, well, we also got a bunch of loot we could go sell, but it'd be really hard to go to anywhere with loot. And getting the key paid off half of our ships. And if you don't know, Traveler was like, it's very expensive. Basically, when we're buying the ship, we were buying the ship from someone that's like, hey, can you go do this really dangerous mission while we go on a rescue mission? Because, you know, sort of like, they were going to rescue their captain. And they're like, our captain hid this key, go find the key because the persons that kidnapped the captain want the key. So he's going to be alive, they're trying to get the information out of him, you know. And we don't want them to get that first, you know, and it's very important. And so we're like, okay, we'll take our discount of 50%. So now they've proposed to us to give us a discount of the other 50%, I think it was, if we go help with one of two things, which I have to remember which we decided on. It was at the end of the session. It was either we were going to go scout out the people, or I think we were going to go for what the key was to. And we were going to look into that. I think that's what we went for, going out for the key that we were... But anyway, we're going and traveling and doing the one, because we're like, as much as we'd love to sell all this stuff, including mummified remains of an ancient alien species that's only been theorized about, which probably to the right scientists would sell for a lot, we're just going to, like, pack it up and leave it in the back for now, because, you know... It's like halfway across the galaxy. It's like, you know, like it's like we have to travel like 5 jumps to like go on our mission. It's like like 15 jumps to go to the next area, and that's a week at a time. So we're like, we'll go do the mission and pay off our ship. Then we can fly off and sell these things for like spending money. You know. So, you know, we thought that was good. There are probably more going on, but our characters don't know anything about that. My character certainly doesn't. I'm an idiot. By an idiot, like, my character's actually smart. I just have, like, no education whatsoever. Go to the planet where the key and the map was from and see if you can get the map, or go to the planet with the psionic fringe was influencing. I think we were going after the map. Yeah, that's right. We were going where the map was originally copied from.
Fair.
Yeah, so we want the two things to figure out where to go. Because our bad guys have the map and we have the key. So it might be good to get a copy of that map. Did you do anything on Tuesday?
Yeah, we did our space game.
Space game. How'd it go?
It went pretty okay. Just typing something out. Basically, a lot of the session was me trying to quell the growing civil war between my people, which is bad for the sector because, like, the highest tech level planet is like tech level 4+, which means they're not quite back to where things were before the apocalypse happened, basically. My people are tech level 6. And we have a giant fleet in the system that is probably destroying itself right now, which is probably going to be bad when warlord factions spawn out and they're like, well, this planet's nice, I'm just going to take this one as a home base now.
Yeah, that sounds pleasant.
I managed to stop it somewhat on one planet, and then we're headed to the actual, not really home planet, but where my species is set up for basically taking over the planets in the sector, more or less. But like religious indoctrination kind of deal. So we're gonna go there when that planet's probably fucked, like real bad, and burning to the ground horribly. But Cell's planet didn't get glassed, and that's good, I guess.
Good for Cell.
Good for Space France.
Good for Space France.
Cell's home planet is the most cursed planet because not only is it France, it's medieval France, but with space technology.
It's so bad. Space France.
It's really cursed. And so, in my opinion, the worst planet we've been to.
Jeez.
Just too much French.
Too much French.
Yeah, we also did kill a bunch of asshole lizards who were evil.
Mm-hmm.
That was that session. It was a fun time.
We didn't do Wednesday then because we talked about the cancellation. You did Thursday, right?
I did my Thursday game.
Mm-hmm.
Party is sort of wandering around big forest. They did a meeting with some werewolves. They met with the werewolf leader they're well acquainted with at this point because it did help them out before. Got some information on things around. They went to kind of basically a point where the magical energies of the plane/planet kind of seep out into the world. And Cell felt to solve a really, really simple puzzle for an hour. And it was very, very painful to watch, honestly, because he kept just guessing the wrong answer. Basically, the puzzle was, I said there was basically went to like a ley line. Cell's personal quest is to release elementals in the world. For some probably dude he shouldn't trust, but he does for some reason.
Well, that's always good. You seem trustworthy. I'll join your quest.
Probably shouldn't trust the voice in your head, but it is telling you to do things. So they went there, and the puzzle is basically like, oh, you find this sort of big circular hole in the ground with a lot of like dead plant life, and in the middle is a big ethereal decaying mangrove tree, but you can see that there are places where water would flow in, and underneath those places there are spigots of like sprouts of new life, right? And Cell couldn't quite guess what elements were for this one when I described things being both alive and dead. Spoilers, the answer was life and death, which released a death elemental into the world, which are pretty evil.
Yep.
It did give him some nice sound advice of, hey, maybe don't trust that voice in your head. And then it left to do stuff.
It left to do evil.
Oh, and then Lightning has a summoned skeleton named Steve. So Lightning put the skeleton into the horrible death water and it melted. And then came back out a better skeleton. aka now has helper levels, instead of just being a 13 HP skeleton that can't do anything.
Nice.
That's kind of all that happened. But they did find an observatory and look at some stars, and found out that there is a big shattered moon that doesn't move from one place in the sky. And I guess that's probably something I think one of them wants to investigate more.
Okay.
Which is good, because that's a world war.
Did Cell have their game on Friday?
We did have the Friday game. It was mostly talking. We collectively decided that we should probably stop the thing that's gonna start a war and kill thousands of people. But, like, none of us like the continent we're on. So we're like, I guess we should stop this from happening. Then we went and robbed a tomb and got evidence of stuff. That was kind of it. That game, I think, has probably got like 2 sessions left.
Okay.
Which is amazing, because we've missed like so many fucking sessions of it. But it will have an ending, probably.
And if you missed it this week, on Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to try to be doing some tabletop-ish content. I did some primers on Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So I made a character that people could kind of see like how to make a character. Just some basics, not like the full thing on Tuesday. And then after doing that, I decided on Thursday to actually do like a primer on the concepts of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, because I realized while doing that, like, there's a lot of like ideas that are in this game which aren't difficult ideas, but just like you have to actually like understand what they are, kind of things. It's sort of like, that's the thing about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I feel like there's like a couple of steps you have to take, and once you understand those steps it's fine. But if you don't take those steps, it's sort of like, well, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Lots of conditions.
There are a lot of conditions.
Well, that's one of those things. It's like everything is a condition, pretty much. It's like, well, it's kind of annoying, but also simple. It's complex, but simple. That's Pathfinder 2nd Edition in a nutshell. So, anyway, I think that's about everything from the week that was tabletop-y.
Yeah.
There'll probably be more stuff next week. I'll have some plans of some interesting things to check out, and et cetera, et cetera. And I should be back to a normal schedule, honestly, on Monday. So, and hopefully Buccaneers will be back next Wednesday. Should be back on schedule. Yeah.
Should.
Yeah. Anyway, for now, I think we can say have a good rest of your Saturday. Thank you for joining me, Momo.
No problem.
I hope everybody has a great one, great rest of your weekend. Definitely check out, my streams when I go up live. Monday will be the next time. Tuesday, if you're looking for tabletop stuff. The evening will be Buccaneers. This show every Saturday, 6 p.m. And if you want to check out the YouTube for anything that's uploaded or stuff that should be coming up, I should get some stuff up this week. The 2 tabletop things I was going to directly upload to YouTube this week, but I realized I've got to make a thumbnail, and I'm only about halfway through that because I tried to make a decent one to find some stuff for it. So, yeah, I didn't have one of those that was really good for 2nd edition. I'll make one and get those up there. Anyway, realize stuff. Anyway, bye for now, folks. Goodbye.
Bye.